How's it going, film and TV fans? Welcome back to another review on the Off the Cuff Film Reviews YouTube channel, and a special one, as today we are talking about the cult classic 2000 movie American Psycho, starring Christian Bale, Jared Leto, Josh Lucas, Willem Dafoe, and Reese Witherspoon. It's a movie that, for me, I had mostly seen through a lot of the memes surrounding the movie, and the use of certain scenes on Instagram and other places like that, where quite a few scenes are used for, like, you know, Sigma and Alpha male kind of memes, because that's what many people believe Patrick Bateman to kind of be, so it's funny to use it as memes. So you got the iconic scenes like, hey Paul, where he murders Paul Allen, and there's where he sat in the chair, and then there's where he goes, oh my god. There's a lot of iconic meme scenes in this movie, or there's a why isn't it possible, why not, you stupid bastard. There's a lot of iconic imagery with this movie, but there's one thing that I think is most important to talk about regarding this movie, is that a lot of people don't understand what it is. Specifically when it came out, a lot of people branded it as, you know, hyping up being a murderer, you know, and they didn't see it for what it actually is. It's a black satirical comedy, you know, it's a black comedy, it's a satirical movie, you know, it's supposed to be showing the insanity of a man like Patrick Bateman and how he's not all what he thinks he is. He likes to think he's this super swag, awesome, sexy guy who gets all the girls and gets everything, but in reality, he's a dork, and the movie is told from his perspective, which is why it looks like, and the movie tries to make you think he is this perfect, you know, the perfect guy, perfect job, perfect money, but because it's being told from his perspective, a lot of the time there's a few parts that kind of slip through the cracks to show he's not all that, and he's not all there, and that it's not, there's part of him that understands that it's not real, but for the most part it's in his head. Moments like the beginning of the film where he says to her, I mean, the first time when you really think that it's all in his head is the beginning of the film, where he asks for a drink at a bar, and the girl turns around to get the drink, and he says, you're a fucking ugly bitch, and I want to murder you, and I want to play with your blood, or something like that. And she doesn't take notice to it whatsoever. Like, she just doesn't bat an eye. She continues to do what she does, which tells me, as an audience member, that it's implied that that is in his head, and most of what we see in the movie is actually in his head. Most of what we see him say and do is in his head for the most part. Well, maybe not all of it, but most of it, at least what he says, is in his head, and the way he says it, and of Patrick Bateman. And it's just a movie that really portrays Patrick Bateman the way he thinks he is, instead of portraying it from an outsider's perspective. It's directly from his perspective, and how he sees himself, and how cool he thinks himself is, you know. A few times it slips through the cracks as well, like where him and Jared Leto are having dinner, and he says how dorky Patrick Bateman is, like Jared Leto's character, and he takes no notice of it because he is clinically, mentally, and physically insane. So that's the beauty of the character of Patrick Bateman, is that, and specifically obviously in American Psycho, he's not in any other movies other than Seagull, that should not be mentioned. And also the book as well, is that he is insane. He thinks he is the perfect human being. He thinks he's the perfect man. He's got the girls, the money, the perfect job. He loves music. Like, his critique of music is one of my favourite parts of the movie, is that he's just having sex with people while talking about Huey Lewis in the news and stuff. It's really, really fun, and all the performances are fantastic here, but obviously it's down to the fact Bale manages to portray the character so perfectly, because a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, it's very obvious. You can tell he is the only one who really understands Patrick Bateman in a way, is that he understands he is not a good person. He is not someone to idolise, and I know a lot of people idolise Patrick Bateman, but the whole point of the movie is to tell you that he's not someone to idolise, but it's from his perspective, so he idolises himself so much. It's such a brilliant breakdown of a character, of a person, but their own breakdown of themselves that's something I haven't seen in movies before, or any films I've seen before, and that's what I love the most about American Psycho, is that it's the breakdown of someone through themselves, which is really brilliant. That's what I love the most about American Psycho. It is him breaking himself down bit by bit, slowly by slowly, and it is fantastic. It is one of my favourite movies ever made, very, very close to being my favourite movie ever made. And I love American Psycho. I think it is an incredibly misunderstood masterpiece, although nowadays it's very much well appreciated as being that cult classic, but it's one of those movies that absolutely bombed at the box office when it first came out, because all the critics said it was terrible and didn't quite grasp the understanding of it, and it was very much an uphill battle to get the movie made as well, with Mary Herron and Christian Bale. As it's very famously stated that, you know, Mary Herron signed on early on, and she wanted Christian Bale, and when the studio said absolutely not, they both got kicked off, and Leonardo DiCaprio and some other director were brought on board, but they didn't like it either. So Herron and Bale were brought back on, and the movie was made as is. So, you know, it's fantastic to see through all the struggles of the movie and through the corporate system, it was made exactly how it was intended to be made, exactly how the author wanted it to be made, exactly how he wanted the story to be told on the big screen, which is fantastic. And it tells him, I haven't read the book, but I gathered that it's quite accurate to the book, because it's a fantastic movie. If you take away all the memes and the stuff you see on Instagram and all that stuff, and it is still a fucking brilliant movie. It's an iconic movie, I think, you know, because while it is a horror, it's also a psychological thriller breakdown of this man through himself, like I keep on saying, and that's what's fantastic about it. You can see him changing throughout the whole movie in so many different ways, and Christian Bale's performance should have been Oscar worthy. It is Oscar worthy because he deteriorates the character scene by scene by scene, and you slowly like at the beginning of the movie he seems like a pretty sane individual, in all honesty. And its music as well is something quite interesting, because the score is not... It sounds like something you would hum in your head, which is obviously another element that adds to the movie being in Bateman's head, because it's very much dun 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 dun, like the opening piece and stuff, and other pieces. They're not overarching music that you would hear in a movie setting. It feels like music that you'd hum in your head, which is what I can really appreciate about that score, is that it feels, again, another part of Bateman's psyche, Bateman's inherent ability to be himself outside of his mind, and it's fantastic. And then also the use of the pop music of the 80s and stuff, because not to mention this movie is obviously set in the 80s, so it means that everything surrounding it needs to be very much 80s fashion, but it still feels 2000s as well, and that's what's so brilliant about it. It couldn't have been made at any other time, in my opinion. It needed to be made when it was made, and that's the brilliance of American Psycho. It's a movie I recommend everyone get a chance to watch, because it's fantastic. It is a brilliant movie with such great cinematography and deconstruction of a human and story and everything like that. It is absolutely fantastic, and like I said, it's that core thing about keeping it completely and utterly focused on Bateman and his own deterioration that is fantastic. You know, like there's a scene in the movie where he goes, I specialize in executions or some shit, and then the lady he's talking to says, well, most people who specialize in excursions or something like that, like a different word that sounds the same, and it's another way of Bateman telling us that there's parts that are starting to slip through the cracks, either from his own psyche into the real world, or the opposite. And I believe it's the opposite, where what he said is not what he actually said, but it's what he thinks he said, like a lot of the stuff in the movie. And yeah, it's just it's a fucking fantastic movie, and I really highly recommend you all give it a watch. Yeah, thanks so much for watching my review of American Psycho. Please go and check it out. It's a fantastic movie, and it's one of Christian Bale's best movies. We've got some cool stuff coming up, new reviews when I can get them done. Thanks so much for watching. Have a wonderful day, and bye-bye for now.